Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Fluently Forward. Today, we are diving into Zara Larsson. She is not a new artist. She's been around for a really long time, and you probably have heard her voice in a variety of different songs. But she is, I want to say, up and coming because she is kind of a rising star right now, which is similar to a lot of the pop girls that we have seen. Charlie XCX, Sabrina Carpenter, Zara Larsson. It's very interesting and I think really cool to see a lot of these pop girls who are getting their time in the spotlight as like one of the main pop girls, but they've been around since basically, I don't know, like a decade, like a really, really long time. And isn't it interesting how Sabrina Carpenter, Charlie XCX, and Zara Larsson really popped off with an aesthetic rebrand? Sabrina Carpenter, I don't know, she donned this like Polly Pocket 1950s, whatever you want to call it, pinup girl aesthetic. Charlie XCX, it was the Brat Summer, it was the black booty shorts with the sunglasses, rave stuff. And Zara Larsson lately has really been kind of taking advantage of a meme that was created around her with her song Symphony when dolphins went into the air and there was a beautiful rainbow, kind of like that Lisa Frank Island aesthetic. And she has completely adopted it. It fits her so well. And I think that's part of the reason why she is now entering the stratosphere. And everything about that is so entrancing to me as a concept. I mean, isn't it so tantalizing the idea that we're all one like curtain bang or side bang or aesthetic rebrand away from absolute greatness? I know that we're not pop girls, but still. But at any rate, even though it pisses a lot of old Zara Larsson fans off, they're like, she's been around forever. I was here a decade ago, all of that type of, I don't know, like hipster logic. But you cannot deny she's up and coming. So I want to cover her because she's been going viral, whether it's her cover of Give Me More by Britney Spears, whether it's the way that her female dancers will hold her up on tour in almost like a dolphin scorpion yoga like position with her legs fully in the air above her as she sings, whether it's her songs Lush Life or Midnight Sun, or the way that she's now kind of this Malibu, Polly Pocket, Lisa Frank rebrand that has everybody going, it feels like it's summer all the time. For whatever the reason is, she's now kind of on everybody's radar. And I think it's time to do a proper deep dive on her because she's a really, really fascinating person. So we're going to get into it. I do just want to say really quick shout out to anyone in Peru. Last week, this was so random, but Fluently Forward was the #2 entertainment news podcast in Peru for only like a day. But still, it made me very excited. So shout out. And with that, let's get into the episode. So, Zara Larsson, she was born on December 16th, 1997, which makes her a Sagittarius. And I think she fits that profile really well. They have done studies. I find it pretty interesting that the star sign, like the sun sign, that is most commonly found in celebrities is Sagittarius. Isn't that interesting? Like, I don't know, Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift, they're all Sagittarius. Now, when Zara Larsson was born, this was really interesting, and I think that this might kind of tie into how she looks at the world, but she was born technically, quote, dead due to a lack of oxygen from something called a nuchal cord. I have no idea what that is. I only found it for the episode. But I find that really fascinating. Obviously, she ended up being okay, but it's kind of like she had an NDE, a near death experience, right when she was born, which, by the way, over on Patreon, we have an episode all about near death experiences. I find all of the stories of that, not that a baby would remember, but a lot of people who are older have near death experiences. And it's really crazy, all of the similarities between them and just looking into those people who glimpse the other side or what happens, what do they come back and tell us? So if you want to check that out, or if you're a Patreon member, go listen to it. That was a really fun episode to do. So her mom is a nursing assistant and her dad is an officer. She said, quote, I'm not from a musical family or anything like that. My mom's a nurse and my dad's in the military, but I do love the attention from when I was very little. I want people to look at me all the time. And we're going to hear a lot more quotes like that from her as the episode continues. So she has a sister, Hannah, who is 3 years younger, and she's also a singer, and she's a member of the band called Lennox. Apparently, Zara Larsson became obsessed with Beyonce at the age of 6. She is a huge, huge beehive. I'm forgetting the name of it. She's a bee. She's not the queen bee, right? But I don't know. She's a member of the beehive. She loves Beyonce. She refers to her a lot in all of her interviews. And something that I think is pretty interesting is this is all the way down the road from the timeline, but in a GQ interview that she did in 2021, pay attention to this quote. She said, referring to previous work of hers, I feel like So Good was amazing, explained Zara Larsson. It had no skips. I thought they were all bangers, really big songs, but they were a collection of singles, essentially. And that was just something that I noticed because Beyonce has that iconic quote that goes viral on TikTok a lot, where she's like, nobody wants to make an album anymore. Everybody just wants to do singles, singles, singles. And it's interesting to hear Zara Larsson say something like that in a GQ interview because I bet she also takes a lot of wisdom or musical or industry advice from Beyonce and this idea of I should do an album rather than singles. I don't know. It just reminded me of what Beyonce has said. Now, Zara Larsson's musical career starts off at a crazy young age. When she was 10 years old, she won Sweden's version of Britain's Got Talent, and she sang Celine Dion and Whitney Houston covers, which is unbelievable for a 10-year-old. Apparently, she entered this Sweden's Got Talent, I'm going to mispronounce it, but Talang Severg, I probably said that wrong. And she entered that competition specifically because there was no age restriction, whereas X Factor or The Idol, all of those shows would have an age restriction. And she was like, I got to get on stage, even though I'm only 10. And the covers are really cute. You can see them on YouTube. She's such like a tiny little kid, but she has such a big voice. So she won that show. She ended up winning 500,000 Swedish krona, which they say is the equivalent to like 42,000 euro from the show. She said, quote, I didn't do anything with the money. We went to America to meet a lot of record labels, but they weren't interested. Nothing happened. And I was so disappointed. And when you hear of her talking about this moment in her life, it seems like at age 10, she was like, I'm ready. Put me in, coach. I'd love to be a pop star. But apparently, a lot of the labels weren't that sure. And she was pretty impatient, but she was forced to return to school and wait until she was 15 to sign to 10 Music Group. So, what did she do in the meantime with those 5 years? She attended the Royal Swedish Ballet School until the age of 15. Now, apparently, she didn't do this because she secretly wanted to be a ballerina or a ballet dancer, but it offered more stage time for her. And she was like, I'm going to be a pop star. I need to have all of the time in the arts and on stage that I can. She says, quote, I love the energy at the ballet school. The day was from 8 to 8. We danced every Saturday and sometimes Sundays too. I never wanted to leave. We were a family. We had so much fun. Now, meanwhile, while she was at the school and she was still like I don't even know if I can call her a teenager, like 11, 12, 13, she kept trying to score a record deal. And she finally ended up signing on the dotted line with a Swedish company at age 14. And at age 15, she had her first number one single and album in her home country, and then it was off to the races for her. But mostly in Sweden, not technically like off to the pop star races in the States. Now, what was really interesting to me, and I wouldn't have known this if I hadn't done research on her, on June 2015, she released the single Lush Life from her upcoming second studio album. I have been playing, Lush Life has been going triple platinum in my house and my car all this month. And because it's been having a resurgence of virality on TikTok, I thought that this was a new song from her album, Midnight Sun. I was like, Midnight Sun, Lush Life, they kind of sound a little bit similar. What a great job she's done on these amazing two new songs. It's not new. Lush Life came out in 2015. That's over a decade ago, which is absolutely wild. But it was still a hit then. It became her second number one single, and it was certified 4 times platinum in Sweden. And of course, now it's popping up here. But how wild is that? You don't often hear of a song that's 10 years old bumping up in the charts again. Now, for the next couple of years, she ended up doing a lot of collaborations on kind of like DJ, EDM, house music songs that you might know of. In July 2015, she released her collaboration with the song Never Forget You. Like you know these songs. She did collaborations with David Guetta. She did the song Symphony by Clean Bandit featuring Zara Larsson. I just wanna be part of your symphony. And then she was also on some Kygo songs. And I am really curious about this niche or like genre of a singer who is so often featured on songs that I don't know. I feel like here in Denver, you go out to listen to music and it's all just like, I'm sorry, it's like house music without lyrics and I cannot get into it. But I do love the type of like club music from 2016 and the artists who would feature on them. Like I'm thinking about how Ellie Goulding was always on Calvin Harris songs. I'm thinking about Maren Morris, Rita Ora, and also Zara Larsson, like those girls who you hear in songs and you know of their voice, but you don't really know much about them because they end up doing a lot of collaborations and kind of singles. So that was what she did for a good portion of her career. And then recently, she joined Tate McRae as a supporting act on her North American leg of the Miss Possessive tour. And I did see Tate and Zara in Denver. A lot of people were saying, like, there's no way that she should be opening for Tate McRae. She should be opening on her own. But I do think that it helped. I mean, that was really how I found out about her. That was how a lot of her performances ended up going viral. That was her showing off this new, I don't know what to call it. I'm going to say like island Lisa Frank type of aesthetic. And I think that's something interesting with stan culture. Like, you can't really argue with stan culture. A lot of these stans are illogical, almost devout to like a religious degree about their fan, which I think gets in the way of looking at everything through like normal colored glasses. But like, let's just say it's really good that stans aren't making the business decisions for these artists, because a lot of stans in the comments will be like, she shouldn't have opened for Tate McRae. She should be her own opener. She should have blah, blah, blah. It should be this way because I love Zara Larsson so much and I have for a long time. But the world that we live in is like the real world. And in a real world reality, her opening for Tate McRae did a lot to put her on the map and more people's radar. And I think it was really good for her. Maybe you think she deserves the world. But in terms of like a business and a publicity move, I think that it was a really good one. So anyway, after she ended up opening for Tate McRae, she then kicked off the Midnight Sun tour concert in Amsterdam in November 2025. And then this is when we have her old song, Lush Life, that ended up going viral and recharting. And I think one of the reasons for this is because Zara Larsson started doing something with fans at her concert where she would pick a fan from the audience, bring them up on the stage, and they would dance out the Lush Life choreography with Zara and all of her dancers on stage. And those videos started to go viral. Everybody started to learn the dance. What is it about a dance? Like, I'm thinking of the Apple dance with Charlie XCX and the audience participation with that as well. And then I guess it's kind of the same formula with Zara Larsson, which, when you look at it from a formulaic business boardroom meeting, it does kind of take a little bit of the fun and the spark out of it. Like maybe they're just doing it to pop off. But I do find both of those dances fun, and it doesn't always catch on. Like, I don't think uh Fate of Ophelia, like the land, the sea, the sky. I don't think that dance really took off. Sabrina Carpenter's Tears, I don't really think that dance took off. So it's interesting, and I'm sure tons of people are trying to figure out the formula of it. What makes a dance really pop off and go viral, and how can we recreate this for our artist at our record? So yeah, you wouldn't think of it, but I do see a lot of similarities between her and Charlie XCX, and I wonder if they're ever going to do something together in the future, because Zara Larsson recently collabed on a song Stateside with Pink Pantheress. It was really, really cute. The music video was great, very like early 2000s type of vibe. But I see a lot of similarities between Charlie XCX's rise to fame and Zara Larsson's. And with both of these artists, we have Charlie XCX making jokes about how she doesn't want to sing boom clap anymore. That's like her old stuff. With Lush Life coming back into the focus for Zara Larsson, I always kind of wonder with these artists, like, are they a little bit resentful of how they have to sing a song that should have made them popular a decade ago? Or are they just happy that everybody's enjoying it now? I don't know. Now, let's dive a little bit into how she works and how she makes her music and her mindset around all of that. So, she says that she spent a lot of her time in LA writing with members of the Swedish pop giant Max Martin's team, because, of course, Zara Larsson is Swedish and there's all this great, incredible pop music that comes out of Sweden. Now, Max Martin is the main name that everybody talks about. He worked with, what was it, like the Backstreet Boys, Katy Perry, recently Taylor Swift, Britney Spears. He's just like, he's done everything, but there's only one song that he himself has done with Zara Larsson, but she's worked with members of his team. Who she really ended up working with was somebody who back in the day was 21 years old, but I'm sure he's older now. But this was a young producer. They call him a Catford Man Uzueki Menik, and he goes by the acronym MNEK. And apparently he was also a quote precocious talent who was signed to a music publishing company at age 14. So how cool that these like kind of young musical prodigies ended up working together. Zara said about him, quote, "We just work really good together. When we work, we can write 4 songs a day. It should be easy writing songs. The words should just flow. The music should come naturally. You can't make it too complicated." And what's really interesting is that I have heard something similar to that from another Swedish artist, Tovlo. I love Tovlo. I would love for the two of them to collab together. But I remember Tovlo saying something pretty similar where she was like, the words just need to, and I've also heard Max Martin say something similar where they're like, the words need to flow. It doesn't matter so much if it makes sense, but they just need to flow nicely. And I always think of the lyric from Shakira, lucky that my breasts are small and humble so you don't confuse them with mountains. Is it Shakespeare poetry? Not really, but I love it. It flows well and it gets the people going. Now, similar in a move to Olivia Rodrigo and Addison Rae and a lot of other young pop stars of right now, Zara Larsson works with an all women tour team, from her dancers to her tour directors, her engineers, and she's also just kind of changed things up where her band is going to be all women as well. And she's spoken in different interviews about how she likes to work with women and gay men. And sometimes there won't even be any straight men in the record studio, or is that what you call it? Yeah, the studio where she's working. We're going to talk more about that later, but I just wanted to put it in here. Now, I also wanted to take a little bit of a look at her mindset. What does she want for herself? What does she think about fame? She talks about it a lot, and I find her perspective on it really interesting because you don't hear a lot of female pop stars saying in the way that she does, I want this, I want it bad, and I've wanted it since yesterday. So here are some of the quotes that she said that gives us a little bit of a peek into her mindset. She said before, quote, I'm a veteran and a rookie. When I started doing this, I was a literal child. And I think that gives her a really interesting position in the pop world. She is both a veteran and a rookie. Like she's being discovered by millions of people, quote unquote, discovered lately, but she's been doing this since she was 10 years old, singing on a stage. So I wonder what kind of perspective that gives her, especially like opening up for someone like Tate McRae, who's not been doing this for as long. I'm just very curious about that dynamic. There were, of course, back in the day, I think I covered this on our Tate McRae episode, but there were a lot of people saying like Zara and Tate aren't getting along. We don't see them hanging out. They're not being best friends. Of course, we hear stuff like this all the time with like two women who aren't best friends, so they must hate each other. And it's interesting because in some instances, it is that way, like Kim Cattrall with Sex and the City, or for example, Gossip Girl, Leighton Meester and Blake Lively. A lot of people, there were rumors about how the two girls didn't like each other, and everybody was like, stop being such a bad feminist. They do like each other. Now, in the past couple of years, people are like, you know what? I don't think they ever did like each other. So who knows? But in regards to Tate McRae and Zara Larsson, they did end up addressing this online. They like took a photo together, and Zara, we will hear later in the episode, she's very quick to speak out and say what she thinks about something. And she shut it down saying like, I like Tate. This is crazy. We're both just really busy. So Zara Larsson has said that since the age of 5, she knew that she wanted to become immortal like Elvis Presley. And a lot of different profiles and articles that do interviews with her have titles like Zara Larsson, quote, I want people to look at me all the time. I want everyone to be paying attention to me. And this is a common theme that you see her talking about a lot. She said, quote, I've always just wanted people to look at me. Maybe it's because I'm scared of death. I can't even watch a funeral on TV because I have like a panic attack. And part of me wonders is, I don't know, I have no idea, but could this be like very repressed trauma from her being born technically dead as a little baby? I don't know. But she says this all the time. I really included 2 of the quotes, but just know in every single article, she's like, I want everyone to be looking at me. I want everyone to pay attention to me. I want everybody to notice me. This is a quote from an article where she was being interviewed. It says she's just 18 and has 2 singles in the top 10, but Swedish pop sensation Zara Larsson is not even close to where she wants to be. She says, quote, my mom said to me, did you really expect to be this successful by the age of 18? And I was like, well, to be honest, I expected much more. I thought I was going to be selling out arenas by now. I'm super happy for everything that's come my way, but I'm not even close to where I want to be. The article continues saying, this is the kind of self-belief that results from singing in the public eye since primary school. She says, quote, there wasn't a moment when I woke up and thought to myself, I want to be a singer. I just always knew. She talks about her desire to create, quote, the biggest and longest and tallest of pop experiences. And this is a quote from a separate interview. Does Zara Larsson think she can be really, really big? Yeah, she answers firmly before I've even finished the question. That's what I really want to be. I have some friends and they're super hipster and they're like, all I want to do is sing in a jazz bar and to just make it to pay for the rent. And I'm like, cool, that's not what I want to do.
I want as many people as possible to go to my concert. Like, I just saw Beyonce here in London, 2 nights, 85,000 people in the audience. I can only imagine what she feels like standing there on stage. Like, all these people came for me because they love my music, and we're all here right now to make this magic special night, to do like legendary, because why not? Now, in a separate interview with Pink Pantheress in Interview Magazine, she said that she has been practicing her Grammy speech since she was 8. And she says, quote, maybe not practicing, but definitely fantasizing. Wow, I can't believe it. Me and the mirror growing up were like, she crosses her fingers like this. When I think back on it, the mirror was like the ultimate manifestation tool. That's what I was doing my whole childhood, picturing myself on stage in front of people, entertaining them, but also entertaining myself. And I find it interesting that she refers to the mirror as a manifestation tool here because I feel like in a lot of her interviews, she's almost affirming herself or scripting what's going to happen. I will be big. It reminds me a little bit of the episode we did all about Doechii. So we did an episode all about Doechii and the artist way. Now that I'm thinking about it, I would love Doechii and Zara Larsson to do something together. And in that episode, Doechii was talking about how she has all of these journals that she was writing when she was a kid. And I just have to say, I'm so envious of people like this, where ever since they were a kid, they're like, I know what I have to do, my creative pursuit. I won't rest until I'm able to get it done. How nice. Like, imagine not having a, I don't know, midlife in your 20s crisis because you have no idea what you want to do with your life. I don't know. I think it's such a blessing to know what you've wanted to do since you were a kid. But anyway, Doechii in all of her journals, there was this article doing a deep dive on her, and they were saying it was very interesting that she never writes, oh, I want to do XYZ, but she would write, I will do this. I will do this. Even the language she was using to dictate her dreams was certain about the future. And it seems like Zara Larsson is as well. But all of this to say, I don't think that Zara Larsson is like cocky with her head in the clouds because she has had, as she refers to them, different flop eras. And there's this funny interview she did where some Zara Larsson was talking about how she's had different flop moments and she's been on top, but then on the bottom. And the interview was like, so tell me more about that, your first flop. And it's just like, imagine an interviewer sitting down in front of you and going, let's talk about your first flop, first of all. And then, second of all, an interviewer being like, let's double click on the flop, the floppity flop. So, anyway, from a Vogue article, they're asking her about some songs from her latest album, Midnight Sun. And they say, you progress into these really candid tracks, The Ambition and Saturn's Return, which navigate the competitiveness of the pop world and giving up control. Can you talk about how you make such vulnerabilities feel pop? And she responds by saying, I wanted to show the journey I've been on to understand that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not sure what I want in my life, and that's okay. I'm not as successful as I want to be, but I'm growing. As a young woman in the pop industry, and I started very young, dreaming big is everything. So is competition. You're encouraged to be competitive, and I actually wanted to confront that. I've deleted some social media, Twitter, from my phone because that validation is like a drug to me. Comparing myself to other people was too. As pop girls, we love the craft, we're passionate about the music, but real talk, you're also wanting to be a star that's playing the big stages and on the radio. That's getting awards. I don't think ego is good or bad, it's just reality. I'm very competitive, and it's hard being in an industry where your work is subjective and things can flip so quickly. I can be that girl and then Floppiana. And it's very interesting for me to hear her talk about this because what she's saying is not too dissimilar from last week's subject of the podcast, Timothy Chalamet. Like, Timothy Chalamet was also talking about how he's competitive. He wants to be the best. He wants to be one of the greats. When he goes home and he doesn't win an award, him and other actors, they are disappointed. They do want to win that award. But I think it feels a little different to me because I think, who knows? I'm just like reading into this, right? But for me, Timothy Chalamet is almost describing his success and ambition as like, I want to be the top and everyone else is below me. And Zara Larsson just seems to be like, I want stadiums filled up. I want to be big. I want to be bigger. I want all of this success. But I don't think she would be mad if like other people were also being successful. Whereas like I think Timothy wants to be number one and I think Zara Larsson wants to be big, which I feel like is similar, but like a little bit different. Now, this was a quote from a recent GQ article, and Zara Larsson says, for as long as I can remember, I've had just one goal, to be an entertainer. It says more recently, including in therapy, she has wondered where that impulse comes from. Quote, it's weird because I'm from such a loving home. My family's always been supportive, but I've always had it in me that I want to be seen. And I do wonder where that comes from. You see a lot of different people say that if your child wants to be famous, it means that like you're not giving them enough attention. But I don't think that can be a general rule that applies to everyone. Like there's so many different reasons why people want fame or publicity or recognition. I love recognition. To me, I'm always so astounded by people who are ghostwriters. Oh my God, or like a speech writer. You did all of this work and somebody else is getting credit for it. Like I would be screaming on the inside. I wouldn't be able to handle it, but some people can. And I find that difference very interesting. The next thing I want to talk about is all of her instances of her speaking out. Zara Larsson is such a cut above the rest. She's really like phenomenal in this category where she speaks her mind and she has been speaking her mind for a really really long time. So we're going to go into her timeline of everything that she's been speaking out about all the way from the beginning of her career in Sweden to now posting and talking about how she fucking hates ice. So this was a snippet of the interview with The Standard. It says about Zara Larsson, quote, I don't imagine she could ever be boring. This is the girl who went viral on Instagram at the start of last year, promoting safe sex by putting a condom over her leg up to the knee. Zara Larsson says, quote, I don't know what made me think of it. There was just something in me that made me want to put it on my foot. And then it got all the way up to my knee, and I was like, this is amazing. It's so stretchy. And I feel like that was so of the 2010s kind of era for all of these guys being like, you don't get it. Like the condom is so hard to put on. And then people would just like put it up to their waist and be like, really? So, because of that, since 2019, she has been fronting a new campaign from Durex Condom Company and the AIDS organization, parentheses, Red. I don't know if that has to do with Bono's Red, but maybe. That's all about promoting sexual health awareness and raising money for AIDS treatment in South Africa. And then also, in order to increase the public understanding of incontinence, she has openly stated that she has used diapers until she was 7 years old. Although I'm pausing here and I'm only pausing because I just paused to do some more research on it. That was on Wikipedia and then it comes up in like the Google AI searches, but I can't really find anything about it anywhere else. There are quotes from 2025 about how she wore something that looked like a diaper to enhance her butt in one of these music videos. But do you think someone was trolling when they put that in her Wikipedia? Or maybe they weren't. I just couldn't find any more quotes about it. I'm going to have to look into that. Anyway, continuing on with her advocacy and all of this like speaking out that she's done, she had some blog posts early on in her career in which she, quote, forcefully spelled out, this is the article saying it, not me, forcefully spelled out the tenets of her feminism and explained why no, making men feel bad about themselves is not just as bad as misogyny. This led with depressing inevitability to online abuse. But Larson fears only death, not keyboard warriors. Quote, I also have so many people supporting what I say, so that balances it out. It almost uplifts me more. I've never met a single person that actually walked up to me and said, you're a fucking cunt, you know? But I've had so many people come up to me and say, you're amazing. I love what you do. And early on in her career, she wrote these blog posts and she basically just always stands 10 toes down on feminism. And she's like, this is what I believe. I don't care about that. This is what I believe. And she got a huge amount of hate for it. Now, in June 2015, she once again came into the spotlight for speaking up. There was this concert or festival that was happening in her home country of Sweden, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, the Bravalla Festival. And she was talking about how there wasn't really any gender perspective. It was mostly male artists. All of the performance lineups were just male artists. And then she also was writing online wondering why she wasn't being presented among the main acts, even though she was the most popular artist on Spotify of all of the festival's acts. And she spoke out about that. And then the same day, the Swedish singer Gunther, who does that song, do you guys remember that song way back in the day where he went, ooh, you touch my tra la la, my ding ding dong. La 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 la. It's called the Ding Ding Dong song. And that's like the only thing I know about him. And he sounds like a real ding dong. So, anyway, he wrote on his Facebook profile against her saying, you are one of many teeny bopper chicks who are world famous in Sweden and maximally hyped, but don't come with any hits, only a lot of fuss.
And then she ended up clapping back and saying, "Gunther, I thought he was dead," which is pretty great because, like, who gives a fuck about Gunther? And then at her performance at that festival, she came on and she was basically saying, like, "Fuck Gunther, fuck all women haters, fuck this." And it led to the hashtag back Zara or back a Zara being created and popularized on social media platforms. And you know what? Good on fucking her for speaking out. If she's like, "I am the number one most popular, why aren't you presenting me this way?" If you see something, say something. And she always has a habit of doing that. So in 2021, she had a streaming performance that was scheduled for International Women's Day, which is on March 8th. And she was doing it sponsored with IKEA. And she was like kind of laughing about it because she was like doing this performance among all of these IKEA sets. But apparently, she also did this because the collaboration was also working with IKEA and they were talking about all of the furniture pieces in the set and how, quote, IKEA is where you buy furniture for your home. And they want to talk about the fact that homes aren't that equal and that women do 3 times more unpaid work in home than men. So she's just kind of always doing these things where it's backing her beliefs and what she believes in. We have another quote here. Zara Larsson, a fan of Beyonce, identifies as a feminist and models herself an activist after the singer. She attributes her openness of opinion on social media and in interviews to her parents, claiming, "Both my parents are very educated when it comes to social issues and being woke about what's going on in the world, and they've been very supportive of me having a voice." She is also one of the few celebrities to speak out against Chris Brown. This was a few years ago, like before her rebrand and all of that stuff. But she was doing this game of, I guess, like song Tinder. You were swiping to the left or right with certain songs. And a Chris Brown song came on and she immediately swiped left. And she was like, hell no, no, I don't like him. Like, he's talented, he can sing, he can dance, but I don't like who he is as a person. So I'm never going to like him. Now, this was in 2016, I believe, and it started trending a little bit on social media. Chris Brown, of course, saw it on a fan's Instagram page, and he responded to this by saying, quote, "She's whack and stinky butt, stinky butt." And she responded by saying, "I'm laughing fucking out loud. Ha 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 ha." So just like not taking it too seriously. She has also backed what she believes in by canning her work with Dr. Luke. So there was an album that was due out in May 2016, and some of the work for the album was done with Dr. Luke in December of 2015. She ended up canning that along with most of the songs that she had written and asking to be released from her contract with the label when everything to do with Kesha's case came to court. It says Zara Larsson says she can't know the truth as regards of Kesha's allegations of rape and abuse against Dr. Luke, but she was outspoken about her bid to escape Kimosabi Records, tweeting, quote, "Often I wonder what's wrong with the world. Hashtag free Kesha." Similar to Kelly Clarkson, who described the producer, Dr. Luke, as kind of demeaning, Zara Larsson also said she doesn't have good memories of him. She says, quote, "He plays dirty. He definitely had something coming. He's a douchebag. He's known as a douchebag, and so it's kind of like that's who he is. But you can be a douchebag and at the same time not be a douchebag. But I think he's just a douchebag and a douchebag." I swear to God, this is the quote. "I don't really know him that well personally, but I'm happy not to be a part of it." I feel like that's all you need to do. I got bad vibes with him. Somebody else has allegations out with him. I'm not going to be working with that guy. She's also been one of the earliest pop stars to advocate for a free Palestine. Also in 2017, she dragged the Trump administration for banning trans people from the military over healthcare costs, despite continuing to fund the service's massive Viagra bill. She said, quote, "Trans people's health over limp dicks." Now, she was asked about her near decade long support of trans equality, and she responds to it always like it's the most obvious thing in the world. Yeah, of course. For me, treating people with kindness and just being fair, I think it's just something that is in my being. Now, she recently kind of went viral and in the news because a couple weeks ago she posted some like stories to her Instagram and it said it was a picture of her and you can tell she's in a plane and she's flying somewhere. And it's her face with the text on it that says, "I love immigrants. I love criminals. I love trans people. I love abortions. I love queers. I love slutty women. I love contraception. I love welfare. I love socialism. I fucking hate ICE." Now, obviously, this got a lot of people up in arms and they were like, "You love criminals? Like, you absolutely love them." Although I also saw some tweets being like, oh, Zara Larsson basically just rehashing what Jesus said back in the day. I love everyone. I love my neighbor. I love the criminal. I love the good. I love the bad. I love my enemy. I guess nobody wants to do that anymore. But anyway, a lot of people were like all up in her shit about you love criminals. So she ended up responding to that. Quote, people in my DMs are like, criminals? Girl, yes, heavy on that. Shit, the reason why my sweet, loving, kind, caring, compassionate, smart, generous, talented, thoughtful man can't come to the US at all to visit me ever since we got together almost 6 years ago is because he has a criminal record. Guess for what? Weed. Ha ha ha. Like, who gives a fucking fuck? Actually, correction, he used to have a record. It's been so long since he smoked that spliff that it's officially gone from his name, and yet he still can't get in. We spend months and months apart every year because of a little spliff over 6 years ago. I'm not saying it should be legal. Wait, yes, I am. But that's another conversation. I'm just saying that there's thousands and thousands of people who go to jail and prison over nonviolent crimes like drugs, mostly black and brown people because of Ronald Reagan being racist in the 80s and fucking up communities. IDK about y'all, but I'd rather have someone smoking crack on my couch than a fucking ICE agent. Ew. They're criminals too. Killing, kidnapping, violent, hateful ones. I see no problem with what she's saying. I find it absolutely insane that people are in jail for drugs when we have Elon Musk openly was at the White House doing ketamine and that's okay. Even President Obama back in the day being like, yeah, I've smoked weed. Then release every single person in prison for a weed related offense. It's so insane. So, anyway, then she continues with her next slide. She says, but also regarding the ICE agents, what went wrong? Is it toxic masculinity, a frail ego, fear of people, and low IQ, all mixed up like a disgusting cocktail, red pill podcasts, sprinkled with some absence of love from their parents in childhood? Seriously, what happened in their heads to lead those men, parentheses, mind you, I have yet to see a female agent, down this path? Do you think that they feel really cool when they come home after a day of terrorizing communities and families, or only when the silly fucking outfit is on and their faces are fully covered? We need to teach little boys compassion and empathy so they can grow up and view every person like a person. It's just so unsexy to, quote, just do their jobs when the job is to be the most ridiculous evil clown on the planet. I don't understand. Okay, then there's two more stories, but it's like, you could look it up online. It's a lot of text, but it's basically her doubling down and being like, all these Trump supporters are upset, but I'm sorry, like, I said that I love criminals. Trump is a criminal. What's the problem here? And then she talks about socialism and the dream of equality for all, but you can't do that with a corrupt government and corrupt leaders, etc. So really interesting stuff that she's talking about. And show me any other pop star here, really, that's talking about this. Can we give the Miss Americana title to Zara Larsson? I know she's Swedish, but still. Now, this is a quote from an article that she did with the LA Times. They say, you said in a recent interview that the American propaganda machine worked on you. I wondered which parts of it specifically. And she says, the entertainment of it all, the Hollywood sign, the Walk of Fame, Universal Studios, just LA as a whole. That's also why I like coming here. It's like I'm still living in a childhood fantasy. There's something motivating about coming to the land of trying for success versus being at home, where we're just happy with our insurance and our health care. There's no grind. And she's asked, is the grind good? And she says, in doses. I like to come here for a few months, feel inspired, and then go back home. Yeah, that sounds really nice. That sounds really nice. Let's talk about her dating history. So between 2017 and 2019, she dated an English model named Brian H. Whitaker, who she tweeted at in 2015, but she didn't meet up with until 2 years later. This was kind of a crazy story. I was not expecting this. So it starts off by her kind of pulling a little bit of a Justin Bieber, where she found this picture of this British model. I guess she thought that he was cute, and she tweeted out his picture being like, who is this? He's cute, right? Which, like, I know Justin Bieber did that all the time. He did it with Cindy Kimberly. He did it with Madison Beer. He did it with other people. Imagine being a celebrity and just tweeting someone and being like, it's like Uber Eats, you know? I'd like to see this on my doorstep within the next couple of hours. Somebody go and do it. So this is from a different article. They're like, wow, you guys have such a cute story of how you met. And this is how she tells the story of how she met this guy. She goes, modern. We met online. There was this super cute boy I saw on my timeline on Twitter, and then I found his Instagram and I retweeted the picture with, quote, excuse me, who are you? Where do you live? Hello. At the time, I thought he was older. He was 15, a little boy, but he was very cute still. So just as a note, I'm going to pause in here. She was born in 1997. So if my math is right, and correct me if I'm wrong, she tweeted him in 2015. So I think she would have been 18 and he would have been 15, which is a 3-year age gap that crazy? Of course not. But, like and 18 is young, 18 is young, but it's just so crazy because it's like 15, that is a little boy. We continue. She goes, "That was 2.5 years ago." And he was like, "Well, let's meet when you come to London." So I was there and he took the train into the city and we met and I didn't like him at all. We just didn't vibe. And I don't care how cute your face is. If we don't vibe, we don't vibe. So I guess when he was 15 and she was 18, they did in fact meet up and I guess they didn't vibe. I'm like, maybe the reason why you didn't vibe is because he's like a little boy. Like once again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was looking around and trying to do the math on it and that those were the numbers that I came up with. So let me know if I'm wrong. But she continues with the story. She says, "But then, as a coincidence, we were in Paris at the same time for Paris Fashion Week last April. He was walking for some shows and I was there doing press. And I was so lonely one night, and the guy that I wanted to see didn't answer. So I was like, boy, my face is beat, my hair is looking cute, my outfit's nice, I'm not staying in. And I saw that Brian was there, and I was like, hey, do you want to go out with me? And then it was just so different. I was like, damn, wow, he's a man now. 2 years for a teenage boy. A lot happens. It was just different. I felt like, ooh, he's funny. Wow, I really like him. And then they did ask this in the interview, does your minor age difference ever come up? And she said, in society, it's always seen as usually you're with an older man. And I think that goes back to the fact that the men are the ones who are making the money and they can basically pick and choose the most beautiful women that they want with the more money that they have. They're the providers taking care of the girls. And I feel like it's 2018. I never saw myself dating a younger guy, but if I was 2 years younger, then no one would give a fuck. So I guess maybe there's like a 2 year difference between them. So who knows? Maybe he was 15 and she was 17 or something like that, which, it's not that crazy of it's 2 to 3 years. That's not like that crazy of an age gap. I think it's just more so like anything under the age of 18, like it does feel crazy. They also asked her at one point, is it difficult to maintain a relationship with your totally different schedules? And she said, I feel like it should be, but it's not. I'm so lucky because my boyfriend's dad is a pilot, so he can get tickets anywhere. Also, because he's a model, he has a very flexible job. So if I'm in LA, he can go to LA and do a casting there. I'm so lucky and thankful that he's making a lot of sacrifices for me. If he didn't and his dad wasn't a pilot, I honestly don't know how it would work. So they ended up dating for 2 years and then they split in August 2019. And the reports were like, this is a bad breakup. So apparently they both unfollowed each other on social media. Their split came out and a source said, quote, the split has been very upsetting for both Zara and Brian, but the relationship had run its course. Now, we do also know that at the time of the breakup in 2019, she shared like some sort of a meme on Instagram saying, when you get your heart broken, but it's okay because the streets have been waiting for you to be single again. Now, I found that in 2021, there was a GQ article and she talked about some trouble with a first boyfriend and how they were a messy couple. They were very toxic to each other. He was seeing another girl for months and she ended up being cheated on and all of this stuff. I don't know if she's referring to the model Brian or if this was like a first boyfriend when she was, I don't know, like 14 or something. So I don't know for sure if he cheated on her, but I will say if this first boyfriend was in fact Brian and he did cheat on her, I feel like when you get cheated on by someone, that would lead to you posting a meme of like, well, the streets are calling my name, so fuck off. Or maybe it's just a coincidence. Now, she does have a new boyfriend. Since 2020, she has been in a relationship with a Swedish dancer named, I believe, Lamin Holman. I've looked at multiple different videos. Some say it's Layman, some say it's Lamin. I tried, but I'm uncertain. I also couldn't find her saying his name. But she says about dating him and love in general, this was a really cute interview from when they were early on, like maybe in the first year of dating. She said about love, quote, I think I'm obsessed with it. It's the reason we're all alive, and for me, it's the whole point of our existence. She hinted at her new relationship as love at first sight, saying, quote, I'm the sort of person who falls in love with people in like 4 seconds. Now, she cast her boyfriend in the music video Talk About Love in 2021, and she said, quote, I wanted it to feel intimate and passionate, and it all came natural because I love him. We had a fantastic day of recording. It's so nice when you know someone so well and feel so safe. And this is her Swedish boy that she's kissing over FaceTime, that she refers to in the stateside music video, and then also the one who can't come to the US that she refers to in her Instagram stories. I don't know much about him other than he's good looking. He's a dancer. She's like brought him up on stage once before. He's attended some of her concerts and people will like see him in the crowd. And they've been together now for about like 5 or 6 years. So it seems like a good thing. Now, what I really want to talk about is Zara Larsson's rebrand because I'm just like, what can I say? I am so absolutely entranced by the idea of a rebrand. Like, let me know, is it just me or was anyone else inspired by Charlie XCX, Tate McRae, Sabrina Carpenter, Zara Larsson? The way that their rebrand helped them out so much. And I feel like it's really something that's in the zeitgeist now, whether it's color seasons or your Kibbe type, or people saying that you should dress like your astrological rising sign or your Venus sign, which I know can't be correct because mine is Scorpio and Aries. So I would have to dress like black, red, cool. That does not work for me. And even though some of these cheat codes like don't work, I just find it so tantalizing. Maybe I'm alone in this, but it's almost like that idea of like, oh my God, the right probiotic would change everything in my life. And the right haircut would also send me to the moon. Like, we all want these kind of get rich quick schemes in whichever format they come. But her rebrand has really, really worked for her. And I want to pull out some quotes that I noticed in relation to it. So, this was an interview from Vogue, and they asked her, how in tune with the Swedish pop legacy do you feel? And she said, I'm turning 28 soon, so I'm allowed to be nostalgic here. Stockholm will always be home, and I've come to appreciate those summers that shaped me. The long winters of darkness and melancholy make you appreciate summers like nowhere else. And that's a metaphor for life that I've trained myself on. Be present for the good things, make your own vibe. I was really inspired by Swedish folklore when I started writing this album. Images of nymphs with long blonde hair staring into blue lakes. And then I added aesthetics of my own. Glittery, colorful fashion vibes. I'm always inspired by Swedish pop. It sounds so polished and fun, but we're also crying on the dance floors. And at first, when I was reading this, I was like, there's no way she's trying to say, oh, I just happen to be inspired by the image of a Swedish folklore and a nymph with long blonde hair staring into blue lakes. Because I'm like, there was a moment online, basically, the rebrand of Zara Larsson, where she had been around for a long time. And then somebody somewhere just made that meme of her singing, I just want to be part of your symphony. And then dolphins come up and you would share bad news with someone. So it would be like an image of you saying, hey, everyone, sorry, but I have lice. So you might want to check your heads. I don't know, something like that. And then like the dolphins would come up and her song would be on the background. And it started to go mad viral. And she is very online. She admits she has like a high screen time. And when all of this happened and the song started trending, she was like, guys, like, what the fuck is happening? So then she started to include the dolphins and the Lisa Frankification in the background visuals of some of her albums on stage, or sorry, some of her artwork on stage when she would be singing. And then I guess she ended up rebranding it. And she does continue in this interview here saying, quote, my digital footprint was defined by the symphony meme of the dolphins. I thought, damn, I love it. How can I incorporate it into my world? It actually really inspired the album mood board. Animated animals, rainbows, nature, but silly. So I like how she, probably true to form, did have this idea of like Swedish folklore and nymphs and all of these pools and lagoons. And then the meme came into play and she was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I also kind of wonder sometimes if you're creating an aesthetic as an artist, do you want it to be something that you naturally gravitate towards, or almost in a Hannah Montana double life sense? Do you want it to be something so different? And I know that's what a lot of people like. I wonder all the time, what does Taylor Swift wear at home? Like, what is her vibe? Because I feel like her outfits are always just representative of the era she's in and trying to promote. And I'd love to know, like, who is she when the camera's off? And we see so much of that separation between like church and state in the pop world with, for example, the names, right? Like Lady Gaga, that's not her actual name. She like goes by a different name. But then some artists keep their actual name. Sabrina Carpenter, is she wearing a wig or is she not? Like all of these different micro elements that a pop star can do to put some distance between who they actually are and how the public knows them. I'm always fascinated by that conspiracy theory that Gwyneth Paltrow's daughter, her real name is not actually Apple Martin. That's just the name they say to the public, but at home they call her something different. to give you like that shield of protection. So anyway, like I find it curious. Would you want your aesthetic rebrand to be something that you love and is close to your heart and super authentic, or would that then kind of feel a little bit too vulnerable and dangerous to do? I don't know. Anyway, I think that the rebrand really works for her. A lot of people say that she looks, and this is the first time I'm saying this word out loud, a Winx fairy. Is that how you say it? The Winx. You know, like those scene girls and Sailor Moon and the Winx fairies. Like it's so pretty. It's so fun. All of her and her dancers on stage are such a vibe. And I think it really does work for her. But then a lot of people with a rebrand, they're like, but is it authentic? I don't think it has to be. I think it should just be fun. As long as I'm enjoying it and it gives me something to dress up as, I'm happy about it. Now, I also want to add some unusual things about Zara Larsson here at the end. Obviously, her tweeting at the 15-year-old, like I was not expecting that. That shocked me. Another one is interesting. She had a single and she co-wrote this with the MNEK, the Monique or whatever producer that she was writing with. And it started off as a scenario where two women come into conflict over a man. And Zara says, quote, "The original lyrics were, 'It ain't my fault your man's calling my phone. It ain't my fault you can't keep him at home.' When we recorded it, I was like, I can't sing this. So we had to rewrite it. You got to have a girl code." So the new version has her telling a single man that it's not her fault he's so damn hot and she's not responsible for the consequences. But she has spoken in interviews about how this song was created from a true story. Back when she was younger, she liked her friend's boyfriend. And she was like, well, it was my friend, but I really liked her boyfriend. And she made a pass at her friend's boyfriend when she was drunk. And I think this was on, what's his name? Zach Sang or whatever, like the Zach Sang show. And she was doing that interview with him, and you could tell that he was kind of taken aback because she was speaking about it without any shame. She was like, I mean, of course, she was like, it wasn't good what I did, and I was drunk, and I don't drink anymore now. She says that she mostly does mushrooms and weed. But it was very interesting to watch her explain it because she kind of had a smile on her face. And I'm not saying like, oh my God, she like loved doing this bad thing. Is it radical acceptance of the mistakes of your past? Is it humor over the situation and being like such a young kid and all of these things that happen? I don't know what it is, but I find that she has the song which I love called Pretty Ugly, and it's like, "Have you ever seen a pretty girl get ugly like this?" And it's talking about how she's a pretty girl, but she's getting ugly and messy and stuff like that. It's almost like a dancified version of the song Bitch by Meredith Brooks, which I love. I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a mother, I'm a sinner, I'm a saint. I really like all of those songs about how being a woman means that you're good and bad and there's nuance and gray and you're not a perfect role model, but you just speak your mind and you do this and you do the best that you can. And I find it really interesting how even me, obviously, like I want to be a good feminist, but I listen to some of these stories and I'm like, oh my God, like Zara Larson made a pass at her friend's boyfriend. And then the background voices in your head go, that's a mean girl. That's Regina George. That's such nasty woman behavior. Okay, she did something bad. She did something bad. She knows that it's bad. She regrets it. She doesn't do it anymore. That was something that happened. And I do find it very interesting. I find it very admirable how she presents herself without shame because what is shame? You know, what does it do to help us? But something that she always leads with is boldness and truth and honesty. And I find that really impressive. And I think it's something that, especially here in the States, like we are not used to a woman being like, yeah, I've made mistakes, but I'm still a woman and you should respect me and blah, blah, blah. Like we're very not used to that. So if you ever want to watch the interview that she did with, I think it was Zach Sang. Anyway, his response to it, you could tell he was waiting for her to like self-flagellate or be embarrassed or guilty, and she just wasn't, and it kind of shook him. I thought that was like a very interesting moment when I watched it. Oh, this was another hot take that she made. I mean, Zara Larson, it seems like if she has a thought, it just comes out of her mouth. Like she lives in the present moment. And this was a post that she made where she was saying, we need to talk about this. If I'm about to go to a movie, people say, oh, if you want to talk during a movie, you shouldn't go to the cinema. Lies. If you don't want to hear people talking during a movie, you shouldn't go to the cinema. And she was saying, isn't the whole thing about watching something with other people in the same room to experience it together and laugh and scream and have full on analyses about the characters while you're watching?
If you want to sit in silence like a fucking stone, just go home. Sorry, I am that person. I am that person. Take me to fucking jail. I will say a lot of things during the movie. I feel like we should change the culture and going around a movie. It should always be chitty chatty in the cinema. Get her on Subway Takes immediately. Actually, don't, because the beef I have with that Subway Takes guy, every single thing, 100% disagree. Shut up. I hate him. He's just a 100% disagree, 100% disagree. And he's always disagreeing with the women. Have you noticed that? Okay, somebody needs to tally it up because he disagrees with them way more than the men. And he was interviewing people at the Golden Globes. I do not like that Subway Takes man. I don't like him one bit. Him and Be Better. And Swiftologist is on the rocks. Anyway, I find it really interesting how she's unashamed in a lot of things. There was even a recent article that she did, and she was talking about how she used ChatGPT for something. And she was like, yeah, sorry, I used ChatGPT. Sorry, burn me at the stake. And then she just kept on going. And I don't know, maybe she practices a form of like radical honesty or radical acceptance or anything like that. But something that I find very admirable about her and Zara Larsson is that like I don't think she's ever gonna hide something. I don't think she's ever gonna try to cover something up. And I do wonder, I'm going to get a little bit psychological here, okay? I am similar to Zara Larsson in the fact that I forget there's an option to keep things private sometimes. Like if I have a thought, I'm like, oh, I need to share it with someone. This needs to exit my body. If I were to keep something private or a secret, that would be bad. I would be lying. I would be hiding something if I kept it to myself. I need to get better at that, right? Like we all need to have boundaries. It's good to keep things private and sit on things. You don't need to tell everyone all your business, even though I do. And it feels like she does that as well. And similar to Zara Larsson, I also want to be seen or recognized. Like I couldn't be a ghostwriter. I need people to know that I'm alive or witness me doing something. Otherwise, it's like I might as well die. And I think for me, a lot of that comes from a structured childhood where like there wasn't a lot of privacy. And because there wasn't a lot of privacy, you kind of adopt this mentality of like, well, there's no use in keeping anything private because everything private is eventually found out. So I need to overshare and be incredibly forthcoming because otherwise I feel guilty and shameful and like I've done something wrong by keeping something to myself. So I don't know if that's similar to what happened to her, but it's just, I'm going to throw it on the dartboard as a potential possibility. I just feel like the vibe I get with Zara Larsson is she is out there and she doesn't give a shit. She lives very much in the present moment, which I think has to be pretty good for your mental health. And I find this very refreshing as well because I hate how so many people say that they have a hot take, but it's a take that they know 90% of people agree with. Like, come on now. She's actually delivering hot takes. She's speaking her mind and she doesn't care what happens. And she has a history of doing this. Like, she was doing hot takes before hot takes were a thing. She was putting the condom on all the way up to her knee. She was saying, Gunther, who the fuck knows who you are? I should be listed as one of the headliners because I'm more popular than you. And why am I not? Why is it all men? So I really admire that bold energy. I find her bold. I find her bold and I find her very inspiring. And something that I do want to say is I see a lot of similarities between Zara Larsson and Rihanna. And I know that that's crazy because she's been obsessed with Beyonce since she was 5 years old. So you might think that she's, what would you call it, like the Beyonce daughter. But with her island girl like music and aesthetic and her boldness and the way that she's unapologetic with Rihanna. That was the name of one of her albums, right? And the way that Zara Larsson is like, I'm a pretty girl, but I can get ugly and I can do messed up things and I'm still a woman and you still need to respect me. I don't know. It just kind of reminds me of Rihanna. And I feel like the new Rihanna is Tyla. So will Zara Larsson be doing something with Tyla? Who knows? This was also an interesting quote from an old article. It was saying the other welcome side effect to a childhood start in the industry is freedom from the unwanted attention a young woman with less cachet and power might have otherwise attracted. And Zara Larsson says, quote, when I started doing this, I was a literal child. It doesn't matter how fucking creepy you are. Not a lot of people are trying to make a move on a 16-year-old. And I always had my mom and my manager with me. So even though this industry can be a bit wild and weird and there's a lot of predators in it, I think I was very well protected. It might have looked different if I started off doing this when I was 23, when I was a woman. Now, I find that fun, not like ha ha funny, but like weird funny. Not that she's being weird, but just, I guess, shout out to Sweden because I think, I mean, we've done enough deep dives on celebrities that
if you are a 16-year-old trying to make it as a pop star, I don't think age matters in the I think people will try to make a move on you. We've had, like, so many different stories of this come out. So, I don't know, maybe it's the Swedish music industry that's, like, not as creepy with children. Maybe it was having her mother around or her manager. Shout out to whatever aspect it was that kept her protected because I don't think the same thing would happen here in the States, you know? This was also another example of her boldness that really fascinates and impresses me. From an article with the New York, LA Times, they were saying, "You started spending time in LA for work when you were young." And she said, 16 or 17. "I always came with my mom. She used to take me everywhere. I didn't really have any friends here, but I wrote to some people on Instagram around my age, and I was just like, 'Do you want to grab lunch?'" And the interviewer says, "Kind of bold." And she says, "Why not? Having friends here changes everything. If I have a weekend, I can drive somewhere and see somebody." And she is bold. Zara Larsson is bold. She's full of energy. She knows what she wants. She's about the present moment and she's going for it. And I find that so impressive. Like I'm just really entranced by people like that. And I think her and Tate McRae actually do make a lot of sense together for tour because when I was doing the Tate McRae deep dive, I also found Tate McRae as somebody who was hungry, powerful, in the moment, ready to succeed, and lived in the present. And I get that same vibe with Zara Larsson. Like, she is action oriented and she's ready to fucking go. Like, let's do this thing already. And I do think it comes across in her music and lyrics and the energy of it. Whereas Olivia Rodrigo and Taylor Swift are more yearning and longing and remembering and wistfulness. And Audrey Hobart is more overthinking and overanalyzing and what's happening here. Zara Larsson is like, "I'm here. Let's do this. One, two, three, go." And I just find that really cool. Now, there's only three blind items about her, but let's get into it. You know, why not? 2019 from the Video Music Awards, it says, "This foreign born A-plus list singer in her own country who started out on a reality show and is probably B-list here, and that might be stretching it considering the really long delay between released songs," which is a roundabout way to say they're probably talking about Zara Larsson. "She wants to do records, not songs, but is having a tough time because none of it is her stuff, so it's all a jumbled mess. She looked to be a jumbled mess last night, which is probably not a good thing. Her upcoming tour needs a record. It doesn't have one. This tour might have to be canceled." And then the next blind item said, "I wrote about the foreign born singer at the VMAs and the mess of an album she is recording and her sticky touring situation. Apparently, part of that mess was her love life, and she did, in fact, have a breakup in 2019 with that model Brian, and then she got into her new relationship. So I think the timeline works out for those blind items." And then the last blind item on her says, "The foreign born reality star turned singer who is probably A-plus list in her own country, in Europe, and B-plus list here. Last night, she was the cocaine champion." And this is when she attended the 2019 iHeartRadio Music Awards. I just have to laugh at like the cocaine champion. Do you think they gave her a big wrestling belt like you are the cocaine champion? All right, so predictions. What do we think is next for Zara Larsson? Is she going to dominate? Is she going to be number one? There's somebody out there listening. She's already been number one. You guys are late. Like, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. This is something okay, this is like a nervous prediction that I have for her. She is a confident, bold, unashamed woman who gives hot takes, and I could see people trying to cancel her. I hope that it doesn't happen, but she's bold, she's unapologetic, she's speaking out about politics. We're not used to that here in the US, which was where she's, starting to get revived in her fame. And I could see this happening even when I was going through her old interviews. She's been doing interviews for like 15 years now or something. And there was an old interview in 2017 when they were saying, "Who would you most like to have at a dinner party?" And she was like, "I'd love to have the Obamas and I'd love to have Elon Musk." And I was like, "Wait, what?" But this was back in 2017. And she was like, "He could really help with clean energy and I don't know, all of this stuff." Obviously, that's a quote from 2017. I have a blog post. I think I archived it because I got nervous, but it was all about how, like, Elon Musk is the man for me, but it was very tongue in cheek saying that because he's such a freak about blonde hair, he could pay for all of my highlight treatments, which are very expensive, and we could both bond over how we've both gotten cosmetic work done. Like, it was tongue in cheek, and I was like, the wrong person is gonna see this and think that I like Elon Musk, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I could see people like going and digging back through things in her past to try to cancel her because everybody sucks. And this is kind of already started because when I was looking up research for her for this episode, a couple like a week ago, somebody posted an old video of her in a snark subreddit. And it was a video of her on a couch. And I guess it was like on Snapchat or something. And her boyfriend was pushing on her chest, just like roughhousing, playing around. And she was making noises like she said it sounded like a pig or a dog. But when that was posted online, people thought that they were having sex. And she was like, we weren't having sex. Like, I was making a weird noise and I was like joking about it. Trust me, I would not post a video of a guy railing me online. That video was from 7 years ago, but a week ago, somebody was posting it on a snark subreddit and trying to get people to be like, "Oh my god, Zara Larsson, can you believe that she's doing this?" And it's from almost a decade ago. She's already addressed it in multiple radio interviews and just talked about how people are bad faith, and I'm worried that I could see some people trying to do that with her. But I hope that that doesn't happen because I would love to see more of her, and I would love to see more of her boldness and being, to quote Rihanna, unapologetic. Like I love that because I think if I ever had to create an album, it would be called Apologetic by Shannon. And then the B-side or the deluxe would say, no worries if not, you know? So I really admire women especially who are like, this is who I am and I don't give a fuck. And that's Zara Larson and I want more of it. My only other worry as well, and I don't want to sound like the Swiftologist because he really reamed into her. Did you guys see his new video about Madison Beer? The Swiftologist to me is like, I don't know. When I agree with him, I'm like, this is the smartest man on planet Earth. And when I don't agree with him, I'm like, censor him immediately. He should not be speaking. You know, like I really only feel one of two ways whenever I'm listening to him. But anyway, he made this video about Zara Larsson and she ended up ratioing him in the comments so bad where she just replied to his video saying, I disagree with a heart. And it got like 4 times the amount of likes than his actual video did. So he turned off the comments, which I'm sorry, but like pussy behavior. What are we doing? Anyway, one of his critiques was that her music, I don't know, like doesn't really hit or she doesn't have a single song that's like the big pop hit song. And I do slightly agree with that. Like I love Midnight Sun, I love Lush Life, I love Pretty Girl. But I think she has a little bit of that like Ariana Grande style of enunciation where I never really know what Zara Larsson is saying. I'm still going to rock out to it and listen to it to multiple times, but the lyrics aren't really like cutting to my heart or I'm even really understanding what the song is about. I just know that it's fun. So I would be curious what the next album looks like. I almost view Zara Larsson and her like to compare her to Sabrina Carpenter, emails I can't send era, and then we're about to have an espresso style bop and then get a short and sweet album and just it'll be totally off to the races. But I have to say, it grows on you, and then she is stuck in your head. Like, the first time I heard Midnight Sun, I wasn't super into it. Now, like, the riff of it, I just can't stop. It really is addictive. So I'm excited to see what happens for her next. And yeah, that is it for Zara Larson. Let me know what you think about all of this, her dating life, blind items, predictions for the future, all of the times that she spoke out, her mindset about fame and how she wants it so bad, and what you think is going to be next for her. Because I find her very fun and fresh on the scene. And I'm very excited that she's here and I'm excited to see more. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. As always, if you want to check out more episodes, patreon.com/fluentlyforward. We are doing our glowing up overnight in January challenge. And we always have trending topics on there every Friday. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. And I'll see you soon for another episode of Fluently Forward. Bye, guys.